Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron channel. Welcome to Massive Iron Live. Just making sure my camera's pointed in the right direction. How you guys doing? Welcome to Friday. Hope you had a good week. We are in it to win it, right? We're in it to win it. We're gonna be on. I'm gonna be on for about my multiple personalities. Oh, that toothpaste up there. I'm gonna be on for about I don't know 2.5 hours, depending on how many questions you guys have. So feel free to post up your questions if you're new here. Don't be shy about posting up questions that may have been asked 1,000 times before. So I'm here to help. And just a few logistical things. If you are new here and your questions don't go through, it's not me throttling you. It is me. It is YouTube filtering your questions. So if your questions don't go through, try rephrasing them. Try typing them in. Try shortening them, etc. So with that said, if your questions still don't go through because of YouTube, you can head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman, at Ben the Barman. Slide into my DM. And post your questions. How you guys doing? You guys have a good week? Training going all right? What workout are you using right now? Drop a comment down below. Let me know. Before we get into things a little bit, I just want to remind you guys of a couple things. First and foremost, you can check out my website, superlivingtoday.com. And you can where it is right there. Sorry, superlivingtoday.com. Check out the coaching tab. Always have one or two slots available open for coaching. I don't usually advertise it, but any given time I have a person or two transitioning. So if you want results, if you're tired of mediocre results, check out the coaching tab. If you want to be a part of a community and you're tired of social media, you want some place to go for encouragement, you want some place to go for some place to go to get form help, Team Massive is teammassiveiron.com, and it doesn't cost that much. It's you get basically micro coaching. You can get my assistance. You can ask me questions every single day. You can get form help. You get four form checks per week. And we have things like topics of the day. So check that out as well. If you're in the mood for gym equipment, I have themassivefitness.com. Some of the best stuff, if not the best stuff on the market. So at least do yourself a favor and go check that out. So how's everybody doing? Just to let you know that the best questions, whenever I receive a question, like the best of the best, I'm going to give that person a chance to win a t-shirt, a hoodie, or a free tub of Massive Whey or Massive Creatine. So we haven't done that. The only thing I changed is I was doing anybody that posts a question before 11 gets a chance to do that, but now I'm just going to do it in general. So if you post up a question, I like your question, I'm going to give you a chance to win a free Massive Iron t-shirt, hoodie, or whey. If you want to support my whey protein and my creatine, you can go over to superlivingtoday.com, check the subs tab. And it's not like I'm making big money off this. It's not like I'm trying to be a supplement company, but check that out. We got good products and their quality. The whey tastes good. It's only 110 calories per scoop, etc. You can give me a $5 tip every time you order, right? So there we go. Let's dive into things. Stein was first today. Happy Friday, Stein. And 3 days, Grace. How's it going? Probably a dumb question, but why don't we generally use low reps on isolation? Because low isolation exercises tend to be, and this is a generalization, but they tend to be slow progressors, right? Concentration curls. You're not going to get to a 70-pound concentration curl. So when you're doing an isolation exercise, why would you do like a 30 for 3 reps? It's not going to be enough volume. It's low reps generally aren't great anyway for building muscle. They're a tool for more advanced strength trainees. So it's just going to put a lot of it's going to be useless. Basically, you're not getting in a lot of volume. It's hard to get a good feel when you're doing like 3 rep sets on a concentration curl. It's just a really dumb idea. Just a dumb idea. You're not getting any value. It's just increasing injury risk. The closer you get to failure, like doing 3 or 4 rep sets, the harder it is on that connective tissue. And especially on something like a concentration curl or something where you're really at the limit, you don't want to stress your connective tissue. There's just no value in it. There's no value really in low rep work on anything unless you're a more advanced strength training. Are vegan diets worse for the brain? I don't know. This is out of my pay grade, man. I don't know I've never heard anything about vegan diets being worse for the brain. There's a lot of obviously, I'm not going to pretend my head is in the sand when it comes to the vegan diet. There's a lot of benefits to eating meat as far as nutrient content, etc. So but if somebody wants to eat a vegan diet and do it correctly, that's on them. That's for them to figure out. I don't know specifically. I've never heard about the brain being taking an impact due to lower choline. So that's well out of my pay grade, my man. I don't know anything about that, and I'm not going to pretend I do. What about organic meats? I've heard this discussion from some folks that are really carnivore heavy, right? And the way they basically describe it is it's, eating non-organic meat is not that big of a deal, right? I mean, there are multiple facets to this discussion, whether you want to support regenerative farming and all that kind of stuff. But, it's really like good, better, best. It's a small degree from the way they describe it. So do your own research. I don't think there's a big gap. I support regenerative farming. I try to get the best quality meat I can. And that's a personal decision. My splurging, my luxury in life is getting the best quality meat. I use Force of Nature meats. I don't have any affiliation with them. I simply like them. They ship quickly. They provide good products. And that's my luxury. So I support them, and I try to get the best quality meat. But, should you lose any sleep over not being able to use the best quality meat? No, you're still getting in great nutrient content. Timothy, how's it going? Happy Friday. Got knee in the quad on Thursdays, and squats are up on posterior. Just do a little active stretching, just maybe put in some heat rub, and hopefully you're okay. At what numbers for squats, bench, dead, you usually see most people progress really start to stall? I don't like to use the word stall because it implies the wrong thing. Things naturally slow over time. That's natural. It's not a stall. It's just a natural slowing, natural part of the process. So there's no, most people struggle to build strength to begin with, because of a number of reasons, consistency and not optimal nutrition and all that kind of stuff. So if you want the honest opinion, on 90% of folks out there are moving slow to begin with. Guys that are really doing well, when you see their numbers are moving up, generally they continue to move up consistently over time. I mean, when you get over 275, 315 on bench, over 315, 350 on squats, you're going to see some natural slowing, but you really don't see a lot of people get there. So it's kind of a non-issue. Does drinking from plastic water bottles really destroy test levels? Out of my pay grade, my friends. I'm just a dumb lifter. Thoughts on fat grips? What are they actually meant for? I find things like fat grips. Now, this is probably going to, rub somebody the wrong way, but I don't like them for hypertrophy training. I really don't. I think they're a gimmick. I don't think they add value for hypertrophy. I think they make things worse in ways that you don't want to make them worse, right? I'm not in my biceps to work my forearms and my grip. Oh, but I get a better bicep feel from it. Well, you still have to progress. That's great. I personally don't find value in making something other than my biceps more challenged during a bicep curl. I don't think that's the best way to do it. I certainly don't find value on them for things like benching or rowing. I think they're just a gimmick and a distraction. That's my opinion. Somebody's going to scream they use them and find value and they felt their biceps or whatever. That's great. In the long run, I still think they're a distraction. And I wouldn't encourage you spending any money on them. Unless you're really into grip, strongman crap, and whatever, and you just want to do some mess around training after your regular training. If blah blah usage is all-time high, I don't know that it is. Why is the average person less muscular? This is Reese. The average person, how do we know the average person is less muscular compared to decades ago? I mean, where are we getting this information from? We know test levels are down. I'm not being disrespectful, but I think this is a little bit reachy on your part. Even if usage is at an all-time high, it's a low percentage of the population, right? It's not enough to impact the data pool of the average person. It's not like 1 in 3 men are using something, right? So the problem, I mean, your question is logically flawed, and I don't mean any disrespect by that. But even if it is, you're talking about a trivial percentage of the population, and that's not going to impact any average muscularity in the population. Tim, how do you detect junk volume? Well, Tim, it's complex and it's simple. Do you have sets that have no point, right? Are you just adding volume in hopes that it adds mass, but you're not progressing? That's usually the first place you start. How do you know when adding more volume to your program? I've mentioned this many times before, Tim. If you are running good with your program and the time in gym's okay, you are progressing with your volume, you're not screwing around with your volume. It goes exercise by exercise, first and foremost. Do I want to add another set of this? Okay. Then if you feel like I got room for another triceps exercise, you can add that in. We have to be meticulous. We don't just randomly go, I'm going to add more volume, right? That's just not the way it works. We have to analyze, do we want to add another set of a specific exercise? Do we want to add another exercise? Do we have room? But all that hinges on whether you're progressing. We just don't arbitrarily add like 15 sets a week to our training. That's a bad way to do it. How do you detect junk volume? It's really simple. If somebody says, hey, I'm doing 35 sets for chest a week, ain't no damn way you're maximizing those 35 sets. It's just a bunch of mindless junk volume that's probably at such a low intensity it's not doing crap. But I like doing volume. Yeah, that's great. But you have to progress on the volume, or else it is junk volume. The body will acclimate to that volume very, very quickly. LV, if you were to take a physical test, which included grip strength, how would you train for it? It depends on what type of grip strength you're looking at. Are you looking at static holds? There's different aspects of grip strength. The ability to statically hold something like a weight or a handle. There is like pinch grip. Pinch grip is like you can do a plate pinch with the thumb and 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, and maybe 4 if I don't think you can do that. That's pinch. You can do crush, okay? So you have kind of a static hold for grip. You have a pinch, and then you have a crush grip. So captains of crush grippers, you can train for your crush grip. Static holds, you would train by holding a bar for time and then progressively overloading it. And pinch, you can do pinch plates or you can do plate pinches. Sorry, I had that backwards, with your thumb and one finger, thumb and two fingers, etc. And no, it's not randomly dead hangs. No, that's not the way to go. Farmer's carries, no. That's like a farmer's carry. You're adding something in the variable, training your grip that isn't needed, called walking, right? So if we're training for our grip, doing a farmer's carry is just adding a variable that's unnecessary, unless your training involves carrying. How to breathe properly on heavy barbell rows. You always brace before a rep. All right, take a breath, brace, attack, and you breathe out while you're attacking. Boom, down, breathe in. So you always brace before the rep, and that involves breathing in. LV, I've added about 60 pounds in my shrugs in the last 3 months, but I don't see much of a difference in size. I don't know. I don't know your situation. We need to know more. Traps are not a big muscle group, so it's hard to measure size. I don't know your weight. I don't know if your body weight's going up. It's not as simple as adding weight to the bar, right? You can add weight to the bar, but not have your body weight go up. Are you on a regulated bulk? I would have to know more. And yes, I would say you're being a little impatient. 240 is not a lot of weight. And I'm just being honest. I'm not saying you're weak, but the traps can handle a lot of beating. So, that it's an exercise that you're going to have to train for a long period of time. You're going to have to train these muscles for a long period of time to see substantial size changes. Should you do farmers walks for time or distance? I don't really care, Rob. I mean, that's up to you. Farmers walks are not a muscle building exercise. Someone's going to get their undies in a bundle. It's more of a conditioning exercise. It can be like a finisher for traps or grip or whatever. And I'm not saying it can't work as part of a finisher, but it's not really a primary muscle building exercise. And Rob, to your question, do you do them for time or distance? You do them for whatever you want. You can do them for time. You can do them for distance. The only thing is, if you're excited to do them, you just want to be consistent. And you want to progressively overload them. But there's no right or wrong way. It's more of a conditioning exercise. It's more of a general strength. Yes, it's a strength exercise, but let's be real here. Okay, like, when is the last time you've seen somebody other than strongman trainees progressively overload the farmer's walk from like point A to 5 years later incredibly strong? Right. So they certainly, because they're a strength exercise, they can have value for traps. They're more of a general conditioning and strength exercise. You have to use them probably as a finisher. I have no issues with people using them as a finisher to overload the traps or grip or whatever. But to answer your question, it doesn't really matter. Time, distance doesn't matter. Whatever you set, if you set a distance, the goal isn't to do it fast. The goal is to overload during that distance so you can maintain that distance, right? And time, if you're going to do it for time, then again, just try to overload so you can sustain that time. My low back is always tight, achy after barbell row, no matter how light. Okay, I would need to see a form video, Rob. Are you doing the barbell row where you're off the ground, where the bar's off the ground? That can be very harsh on the lower back. So you might want to consider the Pendley row. I'd have to see form though, but some of this is just generally weak back, and some of this is form. Some of us just have to be patient, allow the back to strengthen, and understand that back tightness or soreness is just part of the equation. One of the issues in muscle building is that, when your biceps get sore, people get excited. Your chest gets sore, people get excited. Your lower back gets sore, people crap their pants, right? Why? I'm not saying all lower back tightness and soreness is a good or, is a bad thing or a good thing. But, as long as you're recovering, you just kind of got to pace yourself. A lot of people will do too many exercises that really hammer the lower back too much. So just kind of pace yourself. It could be unrelated to the barbell row. It could be related to your RDL form. Could be related to your deadlift form. Could be related to your dumbbell row form. It could be related to your squat form. So without a big picture, it's hard to fix specifically the issue. Dumbbells and donuts. Been on a lean bulk for 4 weeks and weight is actually trending down. Eat more. Despite starting from pretty lean, still making reps. Eat more. What should I do? Yes, you should worry about the body weight. Eat more. Your weight's trending down. You're on a bulk. Eat more. You need to gain 10 pounds over 3, 4, 5 months. So eat more. Bump those calories. I don't care how the weight's feeling. We're not about feel. We're not going to give the weight a pat on the back. You feeling good today? You're feeling good today, Mr. Barbell. You felt good today. You get a gold star, Mr. Barbell. That we're not in for feeling, right? We're in this game. We know the variables. We have to stick to the variables. So the variables are we need to progressively overload and we need to have our weight moving up. So I don't care how the weight feels. I don't care if you're gaining, I don't care if you're gaining reps or weight. The body weight needs to move up. Usually when I get questions like this, and I don't know you, dumbbells and dungeons and donuts and dumbbells and donuts, sorry. I don't know you, but usually I'm just going to speak to the general crowd here, and I'm not making assumptions. But when I hear things like this, usually it's from someone that's skinnier that doesn't want to gain weight. Okay. And they're trying to make themselves feel better. I'm gaining reps. Okay. It's okay if I don't gain weight. No, it's not. No, it is not. We need to move that scale. We need to move that scale. You're not going to get fat if you do a regulated bulk. And I'm not saying that's you. I'm just speaking to the crowd in general. Michael. I've been considering training for a 24-hour run. Okay, question and next comment. I know I have the time, resources to train and recover, but will this much running make me gain much? Dude, Michael, if you have a goal, go for that goal, right? The body's not that fragile. You're just like you're not gonna lose muscle. Like runners look skinny without any muscle because they generally don't train like us. So we have to establish that. Are you going to gain much slower? Michael, let's be real. Most people aren't gaining rapidly to begin with, right? If you're gaining rapidly to begin with, then you're probably going to maintain a solid pace of muscle growth. If you're not already, you're going to probably stay on that same path. So whatever path you're on, you're going to stay on that path. Training for a 24-hour run, I want to stress to you guys something. Okay. It doesn't involve extreme runs every day, right? A 24-hour run is going to involve rest, right? You don't run for 24 straight hours. You're going to pace yourself. It involves basically getting to the point where you can run for 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours, and be okay. If you can do 2 to 4 hour blocks, then you can do a 24-hour run. So the way your running works is maybe an hour twice a week, an hour block, and then a longer run on the weekends. And I'm dumbing down things here. But that minimum investment in training for a longer run, you're just going to have a longer run generally on a Saturday or maybe even a Sunday. It's not going to impact that much, Michael. And so nothing to worry about. You just have to structure your running properly. You need to get with someone that understands how to structure running for that goal. I have an understanding of it. This is something I've worked with some of the best running coaches in the world. And that's not an understatement. When I decided to really up my game, I wanted to work with some of the best in the world. And I've worked with 2 top-level ultra coaches, Gary Robbins, who nearly completed the Barkley, and was one of them. and they both structure their training pretty much the same way. So if you need help with that, Michael, let me know. But no, it's not going to really impact your muscle. It's your muscle gains are going to be about it the same, because really at minimum, you're training 3, maybe 4 days a week for running. It's an hour most days. That's not going to be extreme. This question was from Instagram. Question for today's live stream. What exercises would you recommend for trap shrugs instead of loading up a barbell? Well, you don't really have many options for traps. The heaviest dumbbells in my gym, and you don't really have any options outside of dumbbells and barbells. One of the best options you can do is a behind the back barbell or behind the back Smith. Behind the back, you're going to have to search these on YouTube, but you have to kind of pull up and pull the bar. And you can't really see me do it. Let me see if I can find a video here. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can find behind the back shrugs. I don't really know how to answer this question. Here's a video. Let me mute it so we don't get bonus sound, but I don't want to, I don't know how to answer this question outside of a barbell, because outside of a barbell and dumbbell, you're not going to get a lot of trap activation. Okay, so I'm going to share this video. I'm going to remove the question. I'm going to screen share. And I have no affiliation with these guys. This is just a video. Let's see if we can watch it. Okay, so when you do a Smith shrug behind the back or a barbell, you have to pull it up and over your glutes. That's kind of a limited range of motion. I don't like leaning back like that, but you have to pull it up like that over your glutes. So you want to start with it at full extension, pull it up. You might have to stick your chest out to get it up over your glutes. You're going to hit your traps. You're going to hit your rear delts as well. It's a good exercise, but I honestly don't know, other than overhead presses, which hit your traps to a degree, obviously, and upright rows or high pulls. But to get away without loading up a barbell, it's just kind of hard. Some gyms have a trap machine, where like a shrug machine that you can use, but not, few gyms have those. Max, in your opinion, what movements are better when done unilaterally instead of bilaterally? Lunges. That's just a joke, folks. You can't do bilateral lunges. You can't do 2 lunges at the same time. Humor. Didn't want to confuse anybody. I don't know that there's any that are better unilaterally. Leg presses are certainly not better when done unilaterally. And lunges and Bulgarian split squats, you have to do unilaterally. I've tried dumbbell rows. I like dumbbell rows rather than Pendley rows. That's a personal choice, so I like both. But an argument could be made that the dumbbell row is the king of unilateral exercises. That doesn't mean it's the best row for you, but I think when it comes to unilateral exercises, an argument can be made that the dumbbell row is the king of unilaterals. I've tried unilateral or alternating dumbbell bench. It was all right. It wasn't a bad exercise. It was a good exercise. Did I find it to be more valuable than a standard dumbbell bench? No. That's why I stopped doing it. It was just kind of like an irritating, like you're doing a seesaw alternating dumbbell bench. You almost have to put dumbbells in both hands so you don't feel like you're tipping. So on the alternating dumbbell bench, I do one other. I felt okay, right? But not good enough to do it. The only other exercise I really like is the single arm standing overhead dumbbell press. Now, when you're doing a seated dumbbell press, it's going to get to the point where it's hard to swing both weights up at the same time. It's just going to become a real big challenge. So for that reason, eventually, if you get super strong on the seated dumbbell overhead press, it's probably a good idea to consider, excuse me, choking here. breathed in something. It's probably a good idea to consider the standing single arm press if you are having a hard time getting both of those dumbbells in a position. So I would say the dumbbell row and the single arm overhead press are the king, and maybe I'm missing something here, but those would be two really good choices. You have the single leg extensions, they're all right. I mean, it feels pretty much the same, so they're not a bad exercise either. Out of purples at Speedway today. Hope all is well. I've been out of the gym for 2 months. Sorry to hear that. I'll be starting my workouts. Any advice? Start with the lowest possible weight. 2 months is a long time to be out of the gym. Your connective tissue is going to be weakened. You don't want to push things. You don't want to rush things. So start very, very light and low and allow yourself all the time you need to progress. You have to be very intuitive. When I came back after having COVID, I had to start my bench with 135. I had to start my deads with super low 185. So start super slow and give yourself time. It's okay. It'll come back. LV, is it normal to have upper back soreness after bench day? 100%. On the bench, I get a lot of upper back cramps, even though I'm not a super setup guy, right? I'm not trying to get this super elaborate powerlifting bench setup for hypertrophy. It's not needed, by the way. I still get back cramps during benching. I get glute cramps during benching. There's just a degree of tightness as you're controlling that weight down. So definitely not unusual. A compound movement is going to hit muscles that we don't think it's really hitting. That's just part of the process. You're going to hit, a bench is going to hit your back. A bench is going to hit your forearms. A bench is going to hit your biceps. A bench, I even get glute cramps on bench. How do you handle missing a workout? You just move on. I mean, look, if I miss a workout, I do that workout right next. That's the next one I do. Unless I get something in life which takes me away from the gym for like 2-3 weeks. Happens occasionally, right? Maybe you're moving house. Maybe you're on vacation. You're away from the gym for a longer period of time. Then you start from square one again, right? Maybe you just start your first workout. But if you miss one workout, you simply get back in the gym and do it. Continue the cycle. LV, what's your recommended progression approach on dips? When you can do about 2 sets of 12 really controlled, clean reps, then I would consider starting to slowly load weight. Now, one of the issues on the dip is when people add weight, they tend to like immediately add 25 or 45 pounds. And the dips are one of the most ego lifted movements. So when you are going to add weight on dips, put 5 pounds on there. Slowly progress. Take the hit in the pouch. I know it's like, oh, look, fancy boys over there in the corner doing dips with 5 pounds. Get that out of your head. That's what a lot of us think. Like, we have to stick out our chest and pound our chest like a gorilla, on dips. Like, put 5 pounds on, and then get 2 or more sets of 12 clean reps with that, and then progress to 10. Slowly, progressively overload, just like you would bench. Max, after being away for school and tracking food, I always overestimate the calories I'm going to eat while back home. Tips on lean bulking when you aren't in control of the food. Lean bulking, number one, is to weigh yourself more frequently and look for trends. And what you kind of have to do is, first off, you want to control the periphery. Let me explain that. Like, this is warfare. You almost have to be more particular at times during a bulk than you do after. On a cut, simply cut back food, right? On a cut, we don't want you eating bread and Pop-Tarts and ice cream and chippies and pizza. We get it, right? A cut, we know the periphery. On a bulk, it's really easy to let the periphery slide. Eat a little bread here, eat a little ice cream there, eat a little bit of extra dessert here, there, everywhere. So on a lean bulk, when we can't control things as well, we have to control the periphery, the outer boundaries first. What does that mean? That means things like junk food, fast food, deep fried food, bread, things that are, things with whole sugar or or processed sugar, processed flour, right? Biscuits. So the periphery is what we would consider borderline foods. Junk food and fast food, pizza and chips, Little Debbie's, everybody's favorite. Bread, things with white sugar, white flour. We have to minimize those. That doesn't mean you can't eat them on a bulk. Of course you can, but you have to be aware of what you're eating in those of those things when you're in a lean bulk. Because it's really easy when you can't control food to eat 3 bread rolls or to eat 2 pieces of dessert. So enjoy, but be aware. Does that make sense? That's your first line of defense. Your second line of defense is portion control. When you can't control what goes on the plate, you start with a reasonable plate size. Doesn't mean you can't eat more. I want you to eat more if you're hungry. It is a bulk. But first we start with a reasonable plate size and we eat that plate. If you stack it like a mountain, right? You stack that plate like a mountain and you overeat, you overstuff, then you're going to risk unwanted weight gain. So we don't want to be hungry during a bulk, but we also have to be aware that we're not overstuffing. This is something I used to do when I was a fatty. Like, I did not care about portions. I filled up the plate with as much as I could get on the plate. And then I ate it, even well beyond feeling full. So we have to kind of get in tune with, okay, I'm full. And then you can come back later and eat, right? Or you can have a little bit more than that, right? You're not going to die. We don't have to develop eating disorders. You know what I'm saying? But first, you control your periphery, all those borderline foods. You can have them. Just monitor your intake because they can really increase the rate of weight gain. And then we need to watch our portion sizes and make sure we're not overstuffing, overfilling the foods we can't control. So you have foods you can control. The foods you can't control, moderate. Does that make sense? You don't want to offend anybody that's cooking by not eating their cooking either. Adam, happy Friday. Thank you, sir. Masters Week for the golf fans. Why do you feel the Smith Machine Trap Bar? Trap Bar is a good tool. I mean, if you were just looking to build muscle from A1 starting point, you wouldn't have to deadlift. You could just trap bar, and that's going to give you some back development. Now, ultimately, do I think it's a good idea to rotate in conventional and trap bar? Yeah, absolutely. That would probably be the best decision for the long run for the muscle head. Every other week, trap bar, conventional. I think that builds in a little bit of break for the lower back and allows you a little bit better curve over time. As far as back development, it's a little bit more forgiving. The Smith, I was one of those guys that really bashed on the Smith, but kind of some people gravitate towards the Smith out of mental weakness, a mental strength deficiency. People that tend to gravitate away from the hard are going to gravitate away from the hard in everything, right? It's a mindset. So I think the Smith can sometimes be the poster boy for a weak mindset. Does that make sense? People, I don't want to do something hard, so I'll find the easier exercise. Well, if you do that on everything, you're making your entire program easier. If you're not that person, then you can certainly incorporate a Smith in and get a lot of value out of it. Does that make sense? How to choose what to wear in the gym. Don't go nude, okay? Number 2, no one wants to see your nasty toes. Outside of that, I think you're good. Make sure you shower so no one can smell that skank ass and that stank pit, right? Those are my rules. No stinky winky, no musty bumpkins. Don't go nude. Don't go with something that makes your bulge like, so prominent that it's like enters the room before you do, right? Ain't nobody want to look at your bulge. I don't care if it's Long John Sliver, right? Nobody wants to look at your bulge. Outside of that, you don't want to overheat, though. I'm just being facetious. Wear whatever you want. You just don't want to overheat. I don't want like a hoodie. If you're going to wear a slingshot, that's going to impede your ability to use a hoodie. So it depends on your equipment use. It depends on your equipment use, and it depends on, are you going to overheat? You don't want to overheat to the point where you're like tossing out electrolytes like a champ. What do you think about revert? Nah, nope. You can try it if you want. There was a lot of hype back in the day about, reverse grip. A couple people were using it, and then people tried it a little bit, and it's very few people can do it. It's, in my opinion, it's not any better. If you're the rare person that can do it and you find it to be valuable, then I would alternate between that and bench, but I wouldn't obsess about it. Usually when I see questions like this, somebody saw a video or whatever, and but don't believe the hype. Rico, good afternoon. Rico, how's it going? Big Josh, Megaroids. Finally get to catch a live. Fridays are complete. Thanks for joining in. Sam, what is your opinion on doing a drastic? Yeah, mini cut, get it. I don't know about every month though. No. Not even every month and a half. You need to have a block of training time. Like the first couple weeks out of a cut, you're reacclimating your body, stabilizing. You're getting your glycogen back. You were just weak for 2 weeks, right? You impaired your body. You impaired your progress. It's going to take a couple weeks to get that back. So if you're doing frequent mini cuts and they're a month and a half, you're basically, so you got 6 weeks on the bulk and 2 weeks on the mini cut. Basically, that's going to be 4 weeks on the mini cut because you're going to spend a couple weeks getting back up to speed. And basically, you're only bulking 6 months out of the year. I don't find that a good choice whatsoever. Now, Sam, be careful with saying you find it impossible. That's the bed made of laziness, Sam. I'm just being real here with you, my friend. Just being real here. I find it impossible. If you find something impossible that all of us find not impossible, careful, Sam. I find it almost impossible to keep. Oh, come on, Sam. Impossible to keep your surplus at 300. Sam. Look, I love you, my brother, but this is just laziness, Sam. It's not impossible to keep your surplus at 300. You need to tighten your shot group, my friend. Look, Sam, if you can't keep your surplus at 300, what are you doing a bulk for to begin with? How, Sam, something's not smelling right here, my friend. How are you managing a strong mini cut? How are you managing all this precision to bulk and cut if when you're bulking, you can't maintain a surplus at 300? Something don't smell right, my brother. All right, my wife is here. How's it going?
Oh, good. I'm just gonna hit this hot.
Are you all done?
Yeah.
You said we had an inspection. We're selling our home. And you said you heard the inspector say
He did a video
he recommends repairs on the slope
of the pipe.
Yeah.
And another outlet.
Yeah.
Says what it is.
We have a sewage pipe that's sloped like 1 inch
And
down.
the building was built like that.
Yeah. So anyway.
Okay.
Have fun.
We are gonna go down.
Morning, Powell. Timothy. What are the most common mistakes you see when people designing their own programs? Imbalance. Imbalance is a big one. People will kind of plug in the exercises they like to do. Before you start plugging exercises, you need to get on paper and you need to plot out basically how many sets or exercises you want to do per body part or per area. So before you start plugging them in, you have to balance things. And then once you have things balanced outside of a structure or a schedule, then you start piecing them into the schedule. Does that make sense? So the most common issue I see is when I deconstruct a workout is balance. Another thing I will see is chesticles, big sexy chesticles. People put all their big exercises in for chest, right? Dips and bench and dumbbell bench and decline bench and all that kind of stuff. And then overheads will be like machine chest press, face pulls, side lateral, like nothing really big hitting, right? So another big issue is people will show favoritism to certain body parts. And if you're in it to win it, you want balance, you want to, good quality shoulder girdle health. The massive iron ways, we want to get everything as big and as strong as humanly possible. If you don't want to work your shoulders, that's on you. It's not the crime of the century, and you're not going to give me boo-boo tears. But I see it commonly that people will show a lot of favoritism to certain muscle groups. People also tend to overwork, like that want big arms. They tend to put in 842 bicep exercises, and they tend to not focus as much on the triceps. And occasionally you'll see people putting in way too much ab work. Like, what are we doing? It ain't going to give you six-pack abs. And there'll be ab exercises that aren't, super impactful to begin with. Does that make sense? I heard drums outside. You mentioned the heart attack zone of over 240 pounds. Is there a weight that's too low for health for men and women at different heights? Well, I mean, obviously, if you're a woman, there's different factors here. That's the general guideline for men. But understand, Max, there's different factors at play. Like having more fat will have it. You'll have more estrogen in every cell of the body, and that increases cancer risks. So, that's not a good idea. You really don't want to have, being overweight in general can increase cancer risks. This isn't speculation. Increasing your weight can put stress on the joints. Is there a drummer outside? Of course. Why wouldn't there be? Just randomly a drummer in your street. Is there a way to, like you can encourage stress on the joints? That's another issue. So it's not just generally about, heart attacks, even though that's a real factor. You also have increased cancer risk. You have, hold on. I'll be right back. I got to yell at somebody. Sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm back. Somebody walking on the street beating a drum. I had to tell him to shut up. What's up, Harut? Happy Friday. Paul, when measuring total body fat with calipers, do you get an average of all body parts together? There's different caliper readings, Paul. So there's a 3-point, a 5-point, a 7-point. There's 6. I'm sure there's 6 points and 4 points. There's all that kind of stuff. So Um, you would go online. The easiest is a 3-point, which is like up here. I'm going to dumb it down, but it's up by your chest, between your chest and your armpit, your thigh, and then kind of a few inches outside of your belly button. And I'm really dumbing this down for the sake of information, but the 3-point is the easiest to take. Some you have to go like the back of your triceps, and obviously we can't do without assistance. So the 3-point I would check out, and from there you can check out different variations. But there's different variations, there's different standards. It all depends on how deep you want to go. They're all going to give you a percentage, and the key to remember when it comes to body fat percentage and calipers is we're looking for changes over time rather than, we're looking for trends rather than expecting them to be precise. You do probably want to take 3 readings per, each time you do them to get an average. That's probably a good idea. Good morning. I've been doing side laterals after overhead press for quite a while. Okay. But is it better to move them to a different day? I don't understand why you do that, Mike. And I'm not being hard to get along with here. That's perfectly fine. That's shoulder work. I do barbell overheads, I do dumbbell overheads, and I do laterals, all on the same day. And I do bulldozer laterals. So I don't really understand why, Micah, you would want to move them to a different day. Both of them are going to work the side delts nicely. So absolutely no problem. Max, is it better to have an A and B workout for different muscle groups or do the same exercises twice a week doing a push-pull leg? I'm always going to land on the side of variety. Like exercise, there's just benefits. Like every exercise is going to hit a muscle a little bit differently. So even slight variances of the same exercise pattern, like a dumbbell bench and a barbell bench, or a barbell bench and an incline dumbbell bench, and then you toss in dips and maybe a pec deck or dips and a barrel press or whatever, that's just going to add variety to the mix. And people will say, like, why should I really worry about that? Well, it's beneficial because, look, you can do one exercise like squats, and maybe they leave you sore. And then you add in leg presses, and and they leave you sore, and you're like, they leave you sore in a different way because the body is very specific in how it adapts. I could do squats for 38 years, but if I go do an uphill hike, I'm not even talking ultra running, I'm going to get quad soreness because it attacks my muscles in a different way. So there's always benefit in a little bit more reasonable volume. When I do push-pull legs, I do PPL A and B. I do push A, pull A, legs A, push B, pull B, legs B. So I have 2 variations, and I cycle between those, if that makes sense. Now, logistically, you can get into issues with squats, depending on how frequently you do legs, and if you want to do squats every leg day, but you might have to cycle intensity a little bit. Maybe have a lighter, more 2x12 volume day or something like that. So you might have to, if you don't want to get too far out from squats, you might have to manipulate those just a little bit. All right, Harut, how fresh should your traps be before deads? You want to have your traps fresh before deads. You don't want anything to be fatigued before deads because you got your central nervous system at play. And if you're trying to move a lot of weight and your traps are fatigued, your upper back is fatigued, your biceps are fatigued, whatever is fatigued, you're going to encourage your central nervous system or back to want to drop the weight. Your central nervous system can tell you, let go. It impacts your grip strength, right? It can impact how heavy that weight feels. Because if there is fatigue in your traps and you're putting stress on your spine and your back, your body is going to make that weight feel heavier. It's going to want you to let that weight go to protect itself. Now that's a dumbing down of the whole big picture, but it's definitely not the way to go. You wanna be pretty fresh when you go into deads. Now, if you go into deads and your traps are still sore, I would probably do a hex bar trap bar deadlift, or maybe do what I would do is a pull off the floor. You could do a pull off the floor. That would be a good option as well. Thoughts on legs, back, and shoulders and chest. Legs, so I'm assuming this is a leg day. Back and shoulders, chest and arms. It can work. It's going to depend on the outline. So if you're doing deadlifts on back, you need space between legs, squats, and back deadlifts. You're going to need space between shoulders and chest. You're going to need at least a day off. Anything can work if you plan it properly. William, how's it going? William, thanks for tuning in. Only able to go knee deep on RDLs. RDLs aren't about depth, Derek. You want to drive the glutes back to lower the weight. They're about loading the hamstrings. So on RDL, you focus on driving the glutes back, and wherever the weight goes, it goes. When the glutes stop moving back, that's it. An RDL is not a competition in depth. Henry, should I use any leg drive whatsoever in a shoulder press? You can use a little bit. I'm a big fan, Henry, of doing seated presses, so I don't rule out that as an option. But in a standing, if you need just a little bit, as long as that little bit of mojo is consistent, you're going to be fine. You don't want to have it extreme, but like if I'm doing a military press, I'm going to just get a little bit of a knee dip because I find the weakest part of a shoulder press is right here, for me. So just having a little bit of a dip is absolutely fine. The legend, how's it going? Good morning. Welcome to the big show. Fat Chick in a Barn. How's it going? Thanks for tuning in. Micah. Funny story. Put my stuff at an open bench, was half awake, accidentally started warming up on a different bench. A guy asked me who was the only one with my stuff. A guy asked who was using the one with my stuff. Yeah. I've been there and done that, man. I've never done that one, but I think I put my shaker. Sometimes I'll set my shaker down at another bench, or when I would walk into a commercial gym, what I would do is I would put my slingshot and wrist wraps over the bar, right? And then okay, I'm here. So no one comes along and starts using it while I'm, trying to find a plate or whatever. I've done that and forgot I've done it. Brian, my wrist is injured 7 days ago, and I think I need another 7 days. Okay. I will take the first week off. What you typically do if you're not sure is I would just do your warm-up sets. And after that, if things feel okay during your warm-up sets, then you want to slowly do your first working set. Just start off. If anything feels weird, 3 or 4 reps in, just stop it. Matt, I appreciate the coaching. I know I will eventually you'll get it down, Matt. One of these days, I'm going to meet up with you and we'll beat it in you, Matt. Not literally, but we'll get it. But I appreciate your patience. By the way, Incline Bench is fantastic. Great quality. Thanks. Matt is talking about the massivefitness.com bench. And if you guys want anything, just check that out. Can change in digestion be a sign it's time to do a mini cut? Well, Stein, it depends on what you're experiencing, really. I wouldn't say it's a sign you need to do anything other than maybe look at food choices and maybe how you're handling food volume. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a sign to do a cut. Stein is back on track again. Carlton, excuse me. Good morning. Just checking in, Carlton. Good morning. Carlton's the road beast, the trucker that lifts right out of his truck. Most of the time, not all the time. Thoughts on Mr. Seedman? You got me, massive iron, focusing on getting as big and as strong as you can. And then you have guys like Seedman who's doing something else. That's all I'll say. I have no idea what he's doing. There's a whole cult of Seedman, and they can do their thing, and I could criticize them. But I'm more focused on helping you guys. Let's go where we need to go. They can build whatever Circus Act army they're doing all kinds of shenanigans, and we're going to build our army. I believe in our army. Good Friday. Happy Easter. Thank you for tuning in. I notice my back hyperextending when doing dumbbell overhead. That's normal. Doesn't mean no. I mean, it's hard. You're just trying to get, what you're doing is your body's trying to get in appropriate leverage position. Are you doing standing? It's not a weak core. It's nothing to panic about. You should maybe consider doing seated with a slight angle. What your body's trying to do is it's trying to get in a good leverage position, right? The body is designed to try to seek an optimal position to push things because you're trying to get the weight overhead. So if you stay forward, shoulders slouch forward, wrists forward of your elbows, right? If your wrists are forward of your elbows, your body's going to naturally try to get your wrists under your elbows, right? So that's what's happening. Your body's trying to get in a better leverage position. It has nothing to do with your lower back. It's just your lower back is a sign that your body's trying to get in the best leverage position. Nothing to worry about. Big Jerry Streed, I almost said Steed, sorry. Rotated in dead stop dumbbell rows. Glad to hear that. Experiencing some shoulder discomfort. But where's the shoulder discomfort, Jerry? I've never heard of that before. I'm not saying it's not happening. I know it's happening. It's just a new, something I'm not normal. So the only thing I'll say is if you're experiencing any shoulder discomfort, I would suggest maybe rotating a little bit lighter every other week to see if that goes away. It could just be an initial thing. Like when we go deep into a new exercise and we go heavy, there's a chance there's some connective tissue or something that's getting stressed. So when you do a new heavy exercise, even if it's like floor presses and you've been benching for 20 years, you probably want to take your time and work your way into that. Does that make sense? Big Sam, with a vegan diet, I suggest blood work. I would look, if I were doing all vegan diet, if I were doing all carnivore diet, if I was doing any diet, this is not on veganism, but hear me out here. If I was doing any diet where I'm pulling pieces of what we would consider reasonable food, okay? And some vegans might get upset, but that's just, all hold hands and sing kumbaya, right? Plant-based and animal-based. If we start restricting, like can't eat dairy, can't eat eggs, can't eat fish, can't eat plants, can't eat meat. When you start removing choices of foods that have nutrients, whether you believe in eating meat or you don't, meat has nutrients. We can all agree on that. So whenever you pull out food groups that have nutrients, then I would consider monitoring your blood work. I would consider really being hyper attentive to everything from sleep to stress to whatever, to gut discomfort. How do you do that? Well, you can log things. There are tracking apps. How is my stress today on a scale of 1 to 5? Track it in the little Apparuski. How is my gut discomfort today? Track it 1 to 5 on an Apparuski. Right? You can do that stuff. You can do it on a spreadsheet. You can do it on paper. But tracking all those little things, you can kind of see trends. And if we're going to be really attentive as far as our diet, watching trends like this is probably not a bad thing. Let me get a drink. Home Gym, Fitness. Any advice on putting on muscle and strength after 50? Don't be tethered to the cult of barbell. I mean, barbells aren't the devil, but don't overfocus on squats and deads. Get your dumbbell work in there. Rely a little bit more on dumbbell work. Try to find any exercise. Buy some home gym equipment like the leverage squat, leg extensions. Invest some money in your home gym. I don't know what you have. I'm just looking at your name, that snazzy picture you have. But don't over rely on squats and deads would be number one. Number two would be consider, you don't have to do a bro split, a body part split, but consider putting in more rest between body parts so you can have a little bit more recovery and take your time. Excuse me, any exercises that bother you, just trash can them, find something else. And hire me as a coach. I'll help you get to where you need to go. In fact, I just posted a picture on Instagram. I have a lot of clients over 50 that are looking good. And if you guys are over 50, over 40, whatever, and you want to, make some good progress, I'm 55. I'm going to show you guys a client of mine, Brian. And Brian, this is after a year. And I don't have the before picture. But Brian, look at his arm size. You can see his delts. He's just finishing up a bulk here, so he's not super lean. But Brian just bulked up 25 pounds over a year and packed on some serious mass. And, he's leaning out right now. That's some really good mass and a really good effort. So if you need help and you want to fast track, I'd be happy to help. Omega, happy Easter, everyone else. Hello, Steve. Hope you and your family are well. Thank you. In your opinion, what are the best resources, books for nutrition and exercise science? The best resources, you want the best, I'm going to tell you the best. I guess it depends on your goals. If you want the best for workouts, you need to invest in workout. You need to be a student of the history of workouts. You need to get books by Doug Hepburn, bodybuilding books from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Look at how they trained. You need to become a student of programming. More than you can study kinesiology, and there's a lot of resources out there on kinesiology, but understanding muscles and kinesiology and physiology are one thing, and understanding programs is a completely different thing. The practical application doesn't require an overfocus on physiology and kinesiology, just a basic understanding. So the biggest resource for muscle building would be to study everything with an open mind. Look for commonalities in programming. That's what I did. Nutrition, you want to look for general nutrition information rather than fad diet. And I say fad, and don't get upset. You might want to read a little veganism. You might want to read a little carnivoreism, but you want to look at general nutrition, right? Common issues. You want to study vitamins and minerals. You want to study the foundations. You want to verse yourself in animal and plant-based food choices. So you want to understand the nutrition of that. You want to you want to base your education off that. There's a whole world out there when it comes to eating disorders and obesity and what causes obesity and all kinds of stuff like that. You can study that if you want. and it depends on your goals. But as a coach, one thing I will not do is try to be somebody's psychologist. That is out of my league. There are too many coaches in this realm that try to be psychologists or counselors. So if you want to go that route, you better do your research and you better get your formal education, right? And that goes well beyond nutrition. Does that make sense? Deep Voice One. What's your opinion on doing lower A squats, RDLs, and leg press, lower B deads, front squats, and that's a lot of lower back stress. I will say that. I'm just giving you my general opinion. Squats, RDLs, deads, front squats, and back extensions. Back extensions are a little bit redundant. A lot of lower back stress can be done. It's okay of a program. I have no issues with this program. Just watch your lower back stress. And I honestly would really question whether you need back extensions in that mix. I know you mean well to try to strengthen your lower back, but your lower back is already under a lot of stress from squats and RDLs and deadlifts and front squats. And now you're tossing in back extensions as well. I would really probably rethink that a little bit. No. No. The issue with a lot of these guys is they came up with programming after they built their base. HIIT training, I go over this every week. Somebody asks this every week. It has logic issues. Like whenever we try to take one thing and apply it to every exercise, we're off target. The demands of every exercise are different. Training to failure is different on deadlifts than it is barbell rows. Barbell rows, you're just going to hit a speed slow. I've seen Mike teach people to go to failure on everything, and I've seen him on video teaching people to go to failure on deadlifts, right? So Mike would apply the same thing to every exercise. That's where Mike missed it. That's where Mike missed things. The demands of every exercise are different. So Mike's like, let's just do this for every exercise. Well, that sounds nice and tidy on paper. But A, is it essential? Is it required? No. B, does it enhance muscle building or does it enhance likelihood of injury? Well, that's going to depend on the exercise. And again, that's where Mike dropped the ball. Applying one blanket rule, because this is the one rule to rule them all, to everything, right? That's not smart. That's not wise. That's arbitrary. I made up a rule and I'm going to apply it to everything. What should be done scientifically is the only way we apply a rule to everything is once we study everything and see that commonality that's required for that's an integral part of growth for everything. Deads, barbell rows, they're all the same. Every exercise, if every exercise were the same, then training to failure would make sense, but it's not. A bench, your speed slows. A barbell row, your speed slows, but differently. You can still English it up. A squat, you're really encouraging injury. RDL, deadlift. So it's a lift by lift basis. So while the overall, I'm not against the overall mindset of intensity, like to failure or one set, super arbitrary. Some things need more volume. Not every exercise is the same, right? So bottom line, all that boiled down into a soup, it's crap. Anything will work if you work it hard. But I did it and I got great results. Yeah, you did. Anything will work if you work it hard. If you're at level crap, if you're at level 0 and you step up into a system that's pushing progressive overload or pushing you closer to failure, you're going to see results. That doesn't mean the system's not crap. It's crap compared to other more reasonable systems. How do you balance ultra running and leg training? I didn't have an issue. I just sit food it. I sucked it up. My body adapted. Hey, big, hairy, ugly dude. I have a barbell. Honestly, Tim, it's all force of will. It didn't bother me, man. I just went. I made the body adapt. I didn't put myself in peril, but, you know, I made the body adapt. I have only barbell pulley system in my body weight. How do I have more volume for chest? You're going to have to, you can do barbell bench. You can do floor press. You can do 1.5 reps. You can anchor it in the corner and do kind of a seated single arm landmine press. You can do decline, but you can put 2 chairs together and do chair dips and then superset them with push-ups. I'll probably get some dumbbells, my friend. Or a gym membership. Timothy, when doing shrugs, is it better to lean forward slightly? Don't overthink it. I kind of dip a little bit, just a couple inches, and drive up. How much oomph is acceptable? It's okay. We're trying to think hard work rather than English. A little bit of English is okay, but how hard are we stressing the traps? That's the important thing. People will not stress the traps because they're more tethered to, I just want it to be like this. I don't want any English. Is the focus on not getting English or stressing the traps, right? The focus is on stressing the traps. Get after it. A little bit of English is okay. As long as it's not like these micro twitch shrugs where you have 800 pounds and nothing's going but your head. You know what I'm saying? Happy Fry Targets, 3 times body weight. Yeah, that's a big goal for very few people. Get 3 times body weight deadlift. 2 lunges at the same time. Yeah. Unilateral squat, right? Richard, happy Easter. Have a good weekend. Thanks, Richard. Big David, seriously, join Team Massive. TeamMassiveIron.com. Thank you, David. Big Brian, hey, my wrist hurts. Oh, we already went through that one. Sorry, Brian. Reese, in response earlier, studies in the UK have shown increased gear usage. That's great. It's still very, very minor. Reese, move on. Yes, I know. I understand, Reese. I'm not uneducated. I know gear use is, and I'm not being a smartass here, but yes, more people are using gear. It's still a small percentage, Reese. I walk out on the street and talk to 200 people, maybe one person's using testosterone. It's a small percentage, Reese. It's not impacting the overall muscle mass of the population. Reese. Thomas, what's your thoughts on greasing that? No, it's not going to greasing the groove is not going to overcome a plateau. If you have a plateau, something else is going on, my friend. Something else is going on. You got a plateau, your nutrition sucks, or you're impatient. Something's going on. True plateaus don't really exist, my friend. All pirate stuff, plateau, grease the groove. Not being dismissive, but true plateaus are rare. And if you have a plateau, usually, where's your nutrition? Is it rocking? Are you being patient? Are you really seeing progress? I need to know more information, but I'm going to be honest with you, Thomas, just trying to do something randomly like grease the groove. You could try something like that, but you got to be really careful about overuse injuries. You could try a overreaching phase on the bench press. And let's set aside grease the groove, right? Let's toss that concept out the window. Grease the groove. Like somehow doing something every day is better. I'm going to grease the groove. No, what you usually do is get overuse injuries. That's why we do, if you're doing an overreaching period where you're going to bench heavily, you do it for a short period of time. You kind of enter an overreaching stage. and then you pull back a little bit. So you can do a greater volume period, but you really got to be careful with overuse injuries. If you want to do 1,000 push-ups a day, and it sounds like a great idea, it's going to bite you in the ass, right? Over time, it will. The short term, no. You can look like Rocky Balboa, but you know, you can do a volume period, like you said, with plenty of reps in reserve. Like if you wanted to do 5 by 10 on bench 3 times a week for 3-4 months, that would be kind of an overreaching plan. You could do that, but you want to do that in the short term. But toss aside the grease the groove thing, and that's get a little bit more structured, if that makes sense. Raphael, if I sprinkle, just sprinkle, it's protein powder on a donut. Is it a protein donut? I don't know. Somebody check the rule book. Deep Voice one, when discussed about the barbell and dumbbell bench A and B week, did you hit both barbell bench and dumbbell bench on the same day twice a week? Or Monday barbell bench and then Thursday dumbbell bench? I only really did body part splits, so I alternated them every other week. Dumbbells and donuts. Steve, notice you mentioned bread pasta quite often. Yes. Yes, it is a poor choice. Why is this? White flour, processed sugar. Most breads, not all breads. There are smart breads out there, sprouted breads. Pasta. I want to show you guys something. Okay. A lot of people don't know this. I'm going to educate you guys. Hold on 1 second. Okay, ready? I'm copying the image address. Be patient. Okay, ready? I'm going to show you this. This is pasta, my friends. Don't panic. It's flour and white processed flour and processed flour and processed flour and an egg or two. Pasta is a trash can food. We're trying to avoid processed sugar and processed flour as much as possible in our diet because they are trash can foods, the white poisons. You can get whole wheat pasta. It's still processed flour. There are better choices with nutrients. These things have to be nutrient enriched. Just minimize pasta. Rice, a real food. Quinoa, oatmeal, real foods with real nutrients. Bread is white sugar and white flour. There are breads that don't have some of that, but these are just poor choices. They're ghetto choices. Whenever I say bread is a rough choice, somebody gets their undies in a bundle. But it is. If it has sugar and flour, basically has a lot of the same ingredients as a donut. Okay? That's just reality. A little bit more sugar here, a little bit less flour there. That's a pastry, right? Bread, a donut, a croissant, cake, right? It's all from the same family. Does that make sense? Is there a reason why 300 calories of pasta? Yeah, I just went over that. There's no nutrients in white flour and processed flour, processed sugar. Rice and potatoes are real foods with nutrients. We want to get away from that fast digesting flour and sugar. It's not good for health. It has no nutrients. It's not good for insulin. Mark, I'm currently on a 5-day split. Mark goes on to finish this question later, so we'll get to it. Also, to address your previous point, yeah, I'm a skinny guy. All right. Can't help you there. I mean, I'm not being dismissive. But you got to do what's required to get to where you want to go, my friend. Nothing but love. People just do exercises. To like. Sorry, I'm. What am I misreading here? People just do exercises. I'm misreading you here. Why is my brain not reading that right? Sorry, fat chick. My brain just missed what you were saying, so I apologize. Sam, favorite direct ab exercise? Aesthetics is about fat loss. So there are no aesthetics exercises. Aesthetics are about reducing fat and building muscle. And any ab exercise, I guess in that sense, any ab exercise that helps build. But the abs you aren't going to build a lot. You can do decline sit-ups, you can do cable crunches, you can do ab wheel rollouts, anything that really strengthens the core that you can progressively overload. Happy Friday. Currently on a 5-day split. What do you think of day 1 deads and traps, day 2 chesticles, legs, back biceps? I'm all right with it. The only thing I would say is just make sure your biceps are recovered for shoulders, overhead pressing, if you're doing overhead pressing, because you really don't want bicep fatigue when you're doing your overhead. So maybe you're going to have a day of rest in there somewhere. Probably one day I would have between biceps and shoulders and triceps. Does that make sense? And then you probably want a rest day after shoulders, because if you're doing overhead pressing or even laterals, that's going to stress your traps. So you don't want to go into deadlift day with fatigue traps. So you might have to shuffle things around a little bit. If anything, I would move the shoulders and triceps maybe to day 2 and chest to day 5. And that way you'd have a smooth transition and you could insert rest days where you want. LPB, 2 questions. One of my pushing days asked to start with 3 AMRAP sets with a short one. Wow, 1 minute rest. That's a lot. That's a short rest for AMRAPs. It's a little bit arbitrary, my friend, especially with AMRAPs. AMRAPs, personally, I'd recommend keeping rest natural and intuitive, resting as long as you need. That's what I would recommend. We don't want to be lowering the weight. You know, if you're doing an AMRAP set, LP, what's the rep goal? What's the rep target? I don't know. I don't know what you got to have a rep target in here. Like lower the weight. You know, if you're doing 20 reps on the first and only 8 on the second, something's broken. I'll put it that way. Because that's a huge drop off. That's not the way it would work. And I know you're probably just using that as an example, but it'd be more like 12-8-6. So yeah, you really don't want the first set probably going over 12 or 13, 14, right? You're all right. Are there any general questions, guidelines for visually knowing when you're at 20% body fat? Yes. All right, let me see if I can get a picture to help you guys. Let me see if I can get a picture. I'm going to kind of explain to you guys. I don't want it to be a super silly. This is a silly picture, but the dude's close, okay? I don't know what he's doing to his man boob here, so just ignore it, okay? We're all adults, so we'll it just came up. I don't know what's going on here. So here we go. I can't figure out life. All right, ignore himself. Ignore the farmer 10, the dude fondling himself. What we want to look at is man boob fat, okay? We want to look at lower belly fat. We want to look at love handle fat. And we want to look at lower back fat. So when you have no man boob fat, no real man boob fat, no real lower belly fat, no real love handle fat, and no real lower back fat, you're at 18%-ish. If you start to have a little bit, you're up to around 19 to 20%. Just a little, not a lot, okay? So when you have no lower belly fat, no man boob fat, I'm not saying you're lean and ripped, you just have no fat. Let me see if I can show you an example of a man. Okay, so a man more borderline. Hold on a sec. Let's see if I can picture here. See if I can find a picture of a man more borderline. Okay, this dude's a little bit more borderline. It's just a random picture on the internet, and I hate to just post it, but hey, if Google can find it, we can use it. Okay, present, share screen. Super, super small. I apologize. But the dude on the left, just a little bit of man boob fat, just a little bit of lower belly fat, just a real slight amount of love handle fat. You know, he's 20, 21, 22, you know, so you can see the difference, I hope. LP, about your 5, 10, 10, 20 protocol, how many working sets is that for? Against the recommended, just consider it 3. And I don't recommend 20 weekly sets per muscle group. Start around 12. Consider it a 3-set block, if you would. All righty. Bill from Team Massive. When lowering weight 10% after 11 weeks off, do I return? It depends on how it felt, Bill. You might need another creep up week, especially if it's squats. If it felt good, just let it rip. Sam, some YouTubers, promote performing lateral raise. You can do that. You don't want to, there's no need to prime, target, pump, all that kind of stuff. Way overthinking. You can do it if you want, but it's really in the long run, it's not going to provide any negligible difference, whatever way you do it. Raphael, I have a 4-day split. Can I take the leg exercises and spread them on the 3 days? Yeah, this is, something I talked about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where you're taking a split, but you're doing a full body specialization. So you can do a chest and triceps day, a back and biceps day, and maybe a shoulders and traps day. And so you can have like a body part split where you have those 3 workouts. And I'm just using those 3 as an example. And then you could do a leg exercise on each day. You can do that with any. You could have a leg day, a back day, and a chest day, and then you could have a shoulder exercise on each of those days. So you could do a split and a frequency at the same time. You could rotate in which exercise you were working with frequency. So yes, you could do that. Thoughts on diamond push-ups? All right. I mean, it's a type of exercise that it'll be all right for triceps. So it's probably best as kind of like a finisher, or maybe at the end of a superset or a pre-fatigue for triceps. Definitely an okay exercise. Brian, I forgot to point out I'm cutting. If you're in injury or, it doesn't matter. You just continue to eat normally. Tweaks and strains and pains happen. You don't want that to change how you're cutting or bulking. You definitely don't want to bulk or increase calories when you're not performing 100%. I started doing Nordics and have been progressing well. Is it okay to use them? Yeah, absolutely. No, you can. Most people botch RDLs as it is, so I'm 100% for that. I think that would be, in my book, a main. Carlton of Legend. Yep, Carlton is a truck driver that lifts out of his truck. Sorry, I was looking at the next question. I'm 48. You don't look 48. I'm skeptical. I thought you were like 38. Should one perform warm-up sets? It depends. For the big compounds, yes. If I'm going heavy on like dumbbell bench after barbell bench, I might do 1 to 2 feeler sets. I like to do a feeler set per exercise, just to make sure. Just to make sure. So if I'm doing pec deck, I'll do maybe a lighter, just 5 reps, just to make sure I feel things. Nothing insane. As a coach or trainer, what are important things trainers must know when training clients? Good questions. Good question. Kevin, I'm going to give you a massive iron whey or massive iron creatine or massive iron t-shirt or massive iron hoodie. So head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman, DM me or email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. And guys, just to let you know, last call for questions. I have like 5 left. So if you have any questions, get them in now. What do you need to know? Everybody is different in needs, injury histories. Don't give out cookie cutter plans to people. Don't do that. Respect the goals of your client. There are trainers out there like you must squat, you must deadlift. Never punish your client. Get your client into something that's sustainable for them and that they enjoy. You can do enjoyable things. There also has to be some give and take. You also have to be real. Like I've had clients that say my workout's boring. It's muscle building. You got to punch the clock. There's nothing I can do about that. It's like somebody saying brushing their teeth is boring. Well, I find brushing my teeth boring too, right? I still do it, so I don't have butt breath, right? So there's a lot of things to know, my friend. I will tell you, a client that wants to lose weight but doesn't take lifting seriously probably has a 0% chance of success, or doesn't take exercise seriously. Because in my experience, only the people that take exercise seriously generally sustain weight loss. That's just reality. It's a mindset, so. And people are more than programs and diet suggestions. People are not numbers, and people are in process. And some people are smarter and some people aren't. And some people are more athletic and some people aren't. And some people are stubborn and some people aren't. And some have wills of steel and some don't. But it is not our place to judge. It is our place to value everyone that comes to us and give them everything we can. And to understand as a trainer that what we wish for everyone, perfect goals, perfect physique, perfect conditioning, perfect nutrition, to understand that when you have a client that might just be maintaining or sustaining, that doesn't mean you're letting them down, right? It doesn't mean they're letting themselves down. It means they're in process, and that without you, without that partnership, they might be in a far worse place. So we have to frame everything with a bigger picture, right? It just can't be, I'm working with someone and they don't look like a bodybuilder, or they're losing weight too slow, or they're not progressing fast enough, or they make too many mistakes with diet. People are valuable and in process, and not everyone is going to progress at the same rate, and that is okay. So we have to set aside the ultimate standards and get in the trenches with people and help them take the next step with them. Because you can't win the war if you aren't holding ground or fighting to hold ground or trying to take the next step. So there are too many trainers who get offended or pissed off or irritated that people aren't crushing everything. Those are shitty trainers. Those people expect everyone to be godlike, God tier at everything, and people aren't. That's the reality. We're all going to struggle. I struggle on a weekly basis. Some days I have stressful days. Some days I'm frustrated. Some days I'm unmotivated. We have to, as trainers and coaches, understand these are people. And some excuses are invalid and some are valid. It's not our job to sit around and get pissed when people make excuses or have subpar progress. Our job is to help them move that next step forward. And finally, our job is not to be their counselor and their psychologist. We are not equipped. We are not psychiatrists. We have to be very careful with what we counsel. Here is your nutrition. This is where it should be. This is your workout. This is why you should be doing it. This is your cardio, your movements, your step goal. If you have somebody that has eating issues, you can give them reasonable plans of attack for those eating issues. But when I see coaches and trainers that are trying to tell you how to prevent injuries or cure injuries with exercise or cure binge eating with certain approaches, these people are out of bounds, my friend. They're out of bounds. There's good advice and there's reasonable advice and there's sound advice. And there's advice some people need to hear, like getting a kick in the ass, right? You need to get a kick in the ass. And you need to earn the right to give them a kick in the ass. But we need to be very careful to understand that some people need professional help. And our profession and the professional help some people need with food are not the same professions. Some people have eating issues and they need help. Some people that can't stop eating fast food. It can frustrate you as a trainer. But they have some form of an addiction. Something is broken. They can't stop binge eating. You can give them suggestions for food volume, because the stopgap is, let's replace bad food with good food. That's a health. That's something for better health. That's our job. Improve food choices. That's what we do. But that doesn't fix binge eating. Does that understand? So I don't always understand the degrees of binge eating. I was a binge eater. When somebody comes to me with an eating disorder, I understand that I can just show them how to eat healthier to make better choices. But I will tell you, a lot of obese people, and I say this from the bottom of my heart, we have a culture with a lot of addicts that need help. And we need to be careful, as coaches and trainers, what we are telling these people. We want to try to get them on the right track to take care of themselves. But when something's broken up here, we also need to understand, we're not equipped. We didn't go to school, to fight addiction. We're not addiction counselors. So we need to understand what we can do and what we can't do. Does that make sense? Kevin, is it necessary to have reps and sets for warm-ups? Dynamic stretching is not necessary. You don't need any stretching. It's not necessary at all. If you find it valuable, use it, but it's not necessary at all. We know this because 99.99% of people that have ever built muscle and strength do not use it. Therefore, it's not a required variable. I've been wondering, I feel like my bench is progressing well. Is there anything I can do to help me put? Yeah, nutritional consistency. Number one, sustain bulks 9-10 months out of the year, combined with short, precise, quality cuts to keep our weight regulated. That's the biggest thing. Nutritional, like if you want a big bench, you better take, unless you're on megaroids, you better take your nutrition seriously. It needs to be locked and loaded. There are things we can do, concurrent periodization and central nervous system, attacking the central nervous system. Those are all things I do with clients. But yeah, there are certainly things we can do. We can do concurrent periodization. The biggest thing I could say, Matt, is if you want a big bench, you really, 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 really need to take your nutrition as seriously as you can, because that's going to be the platform. But doesn't white rice? No, white rice doesn't have very little new. Dude, you are trying to compare processed flour to white rice. No, white rice has tons of nutrients. White rice is nutrient rich. It's not the same as processed flour. There's a reason why they add. Dude, if you want to eat pasta, go ahead, but you're kind of burying your head in the sand a little bit. It's processed flour. They have to enrich it. Nutrients in white rice. Here we go. White rice contains magnesium, phosphorus, manganese, selenium, iron, folic acid, thiamine, and niacin. White rice nutrition, and let's see, manganese, iron, thiamine, flour, nothing. Nothing. It's a real food, my friend. And plus, when you eat a whole food, it takes time to digest, right? So the carbs in there take time to digest. When you eat processed crap like white flour, it's digested like that. So you're going to be on the more of a roller coaster high. Dude, there's no, white rice does not have little nutrient content. You bet, Thomas. Thank you. Chris, I did Easy Bar Preacher Curls. Okay, great. Just make sure I don't live in the RPE world, and that's fine that you do, but just make sure, like, if you have a progression indicator and you move up in weight when you can. What are your thoughts? What are your favorite rep ranges for leg extensions? I like higher rep leg extensions, 10 to 15s. You can even go up to 20s. The same for hammy curls, right? Too low on hammy curls, and I feel my connective tissue doesn't tend to like it. LV, if you have 20 plus pressing movements, I don't. It's okay to drop your direct. I don't recommend 20 plus sets for barbell and dumbbell. If you have 3 barbell bench, 3 dumbbell bench, 3 barbell overhead, 3 dumbbell overhead, that's 12. If you add in machines, you might be at 18, but no, I wouldn't. 6 is a little bit low. I'd have to see the program, LV, to be honest with you. You could do it, but I'd have to see the program. It's possible. Yes, it's possible. And if you're doing that many pressing movements, you could drop it to 6. Thank you, Robert. Why is it that if you have not benched for 3 weeks, strength suffers, but with dumbbells? That's not the case for everyone, Sam. That's just something you've personally experienced. It'll be the same mostly generally for everyone. But if you haven't benched in that period of time, you probably shouldn't be trying to use the same weight because your connective tissue is at risk and you're going to increase risk of injury. Thank you for putting up with all of our nonsense. Hey, I'm not putting up with anything. I'm just shooting you guys straight, and I appreciate all your guys' questions. As an Italian, I got to have – no, you don't. You want pasta. You don't got to have nothing. You want to be a fat Italian is what you want to be, a fat diabetic Italian, but round it out with some meat. That's fine. You're still going to be a diabetic Italian. Much love. But, hey, it is what it is, man. It's processed flour. I get it. Every Italian client I had, they got to have bread and pasta. They struggle with weight loss. So pick the sword you want to fall on. You know, I'm just letting you guys know it's a crap food. Thanks for another great live. Thank you. Teaching 6 days a week and prepping on Sunday, hanging in and maintaining. Thank you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate everyone's support. Thank you. I guess your Massive Iron shirt. Yep. No problem. I ship out there all the time. No, I don't need to give it to someone in need, my friend. It's coming your way. I have no problem. I have clients over there. So I will send it your way. Hit me up on Instagram. That's not a problem. I ship all over the world. I don't want a big bench. I want a big chest. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you joining in. I'm here every Friday. If you want coaching, please head over to superlivingtoday.com. Check out my workout tabs. Check out my subs tabs and all that kind of good stuff. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me find my thing here. I am out of here.
It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.